Felicia,
Fresh.
laser cutting and engraving has revolutionized the crafting and manufacturing world.
It sure has.
Offering precision and creativity unlike ever before. But did you ever feel like you're lost in the woods? You see what I did there?
Just don't. A key factor in achieving amazing results is selecting the right wood for your project. So let's dive into the characteristics of popular wood types and their suitability for laser cutting and engraving. But first, we're going to need a short lesson in woods. What the heck is the difference between hardwoods and softwoods? Isn't wood just plain wood?
Well, Felicia, hardwoods are known for their durability and aesthetic appeal. They're excellent choices for laser projects. Hardwoods are the woods from, we're going to get sciencey here, angiosperm trees. An angiosperm tree is a tree that produces flowers and fruits, and like cherry and walnut trees. Hardwood trees produce wood that has pores or tiny holes, and which is why they have unique textures and why they stain so nicely.
It's true. You would think that hardwood is usually harder than softwood, right? Not always. The difference isn't based on the wood's real hardness. It's determined by something known as the Janka scale.
That's a janky word. The Janka hardness test is a standardized measure that all the wood companies use to measure the resistance of wood to denting and wear. Essentially, it tells you how hard an average piece of wood is. So the Janka test, this is pretty cool. I'm going to do it right here. It measures the force required to embed a steel ball that's less than a ½ inch in diameter halfway into a sample of wood. I'm going to try it right now. And that's measured in pounds force or newtons. The higher the Janka rating, the harder the wood. You see our little dent in there, right?
A little bit.
And the higher the Janka score, the more time and or power you'll need to engrave or cut it with your laser.
So let's take a look at balsa wood as an example. Although biologically classified as a hardwood, it's actually one of the softest woods. It ranks around 100 on the Janka scale. Then there's oak, which ranks around 1,200 to 1,300, and hickory, which is about 1,800. Mm-hmm. There's some exotic woods that measure over 3,000 on the Janka scale.
You need like a 10,000 watt laser to cut through those. Softwood is wood from gymnosperm trees. Gymnosperms are seed-bearing plants that don't produce flowers or fruits. The name gymnosperm literally means naked seed because their seeds are not enclosed within a fruit. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I hear you.
So we're talking like seeds exposed on the surface, like pine cone scales or leaf-like structures, like pine and cedar.
Okay.
So the absence of pores gives softwoods a more uniform, less textured appearance compared to many hardwoods. And check this out, around 900 on the Janka scale, aromatic red cedar and yellow pine are both softwoods, even though they're kind of hard. But here's where it gets really weird. Super soft basswood at 400 on the Janka scale is biologically considered to be a hardwood. So you can see it can be a little confusing. Here are some of the more popular hardwoods used in laser engraving and cutting projects.
Cherry, which is at about 1,000 on the Janka scale, is a classic hardwood that starts with a light pink hue that matures into a rich reddish brown. Cherry is relatively easy to work with. It cuts and engraves smoothly and produces a beautiful dark brown engraving. It's great for furniture, jewelry boxes, picture frames, and other high-end crafts.
Alder, at about 600, is a member of the birch family. Similar to cherry in color, alder has a more uniform grain pattern. It's pretty easy to work with, but can be prone to fuzziness when laser cut, requiring some light sanding sometimes. Alder produces a real deep, almost black engraving, making it perfect for signage or plaques or decorative items where a strong contrast is desired.
And hard maple at about 1,400 boosts a creamy white to light tan and a tight, close grain. While it's denser than other woods and requires higher laser power, it engraves with exceptional detail.
True that.
Hard maple produces a light brown engraving with good contrast. It's suitable for durable items like cutting boards, coasters, and intricate engravings.
Poplar, at around 550 on the Janka scale, not Janky or Jenga, Janka, has a light, consistent color and a fine uniform grain. This means the laser can create a nice contrast and the engraving will look even and smooth. Now, while technically a hardwood, poplar, like basswood, is on the softer side. Poplar is relatively inexpensive and stains well, so you can finish your engraved pieces in a variety of colors.
Of course, there are a ton more hardwoods you can experiment with, including walnut, oak, birch, and even bamboo, which is technically a grass, but it's super hard when processed.
True. Note that depending on how the bamboo is processed, engraving it may result in some nasty toxic fumes, similar to MDF, which we'll talk about in a moment. And a lot of people use cork, which is super soft, but it's neither a hardwood nor a softwood. It's actually the bark of the cork oak tree, which we saw in Portugal. And of course, don't forget basswood and balsa wood, which are classified as hardwoods, although they're both really stupid soft. And if you're a baller, you can experiment with exotic hardwoods like zebra wood or bubinga, or rosewood, ebony, kingwood, but prepare to deplete the kids' college fund to stock up on that stuff. Let's talk about some of the challenges of working with hardwoods.
While hardwoods offer beauty and durability, they also present some challenges when used in laser cutting and engraving.
Hardwoods are denser than softwoods, requiring a lot more laser power to cut and engrave effectively. This really puts extra strain on your laser cutter, which could potentially shorten its tube lifespan if you're using a CO2 tube. And due to their density, hardwoods require slower cutting speeds, so this can increase your production time or reduce your efficiency, especially for intricate designs or thicker materials.
That's right. There's an increased risk of burning. Some hardwoods like oak and walnut have a high tannin content. Tannins can react with the heat of the laser, causing the wood to darken extensively or even char. Variations in density and moisture content within a hardwood piece can lead to uneven burning or engraving. This is usually noticeable in woods with distinct grain patterns.
Like this. Then there's the potential for warping. Hardwoods can have sneaky internal stresses that are released during the laser cutting process. This can cause your wood to warp, especially in larger pieces or during intricate cuts. If the hardwood has not been properly dried, the heat from the laser can cause the remaining moisture to evaporate rapidly, leading to warping or even cracking.
And there's cost. Hardwoods are generally more expensive than softwoods or engineered woods. This can increase the overall cost of your project, especially if you're using a large quantity of material.
Yeah.
So avoid waste by cutting and engraving efficiently.
That's right. And there's limited availability of some hardwoods. They're a little harder to get. I mean, depending on your location, certain hardwoods are going to be harder to source than the softwoods a lot of people use. This can add time, travel, shipping costs to your project planning, so consider that if you take on a big project with hardwoods.
And there's wear and tear on equipment. Cutting hardwoods frequently will put more stress on your laser cutter's CO2 tube, motors, and exhaust system. This can lead to increased maintenance and potentially shorten the lifespan of your equipment. There are a couple of strategies for working with hardwoods. First, allow hardwood to acclimate to your workshop environment before cutting to minimize moisture-related warping. And second, always perform test cuts on scrap pieces to fine-tune your settings and identify potential issues before working on your final project.
Let's talk about softwoods. They're versatile and jankable. Jankatable.
You made that up, didn't you?
Is that a word? I don't even know what that is. Softwoods, while less durable than hardwoods, offer a range of benefits, including affordability and ease of use. Consider these popular options when you're looking for great wood to laser with. Basswood, about 400 on the Janka scale, is technically a hardwood that is often considered a softwood and is renowned for its light color and fine, even texture. I think we have a piece of it back here. It's very easy to work with, cutting and engraving smoothly with low laser power. Basswood produces a light brown engraving, making it awesome for beginner projects, models, or toys. This is all basswood.
That's right. And pine has a distinctive appearance. Its white to yellow color and prominent grain patterns adds a rustic charm to projects. At about 300 to 500 on the Janka scale, it's easy to work with, but its resin content can sometimes cause uneven burning. Pine produces a dark brown engraving with high contrast. This makes it perfect for rustic style projects, signs, and crafts where the natural grain is desired.
Now, there are some challenges of working with softwoods. Here's some cons to consider. First, there's burning and scorching.
Softwoods have a lower ignition temperature and burn more easily than hardwoods. This makes them more susceptible to scorching and burning, especially at higher laser powers or with prolonged exposure. The resin content in some softwoods like pine can cause uneven burning and discoloration. This can lead to inconsistent results, particularly with detailed engravings.
Softwoods can have variations in their density, structure, and grain structure, which can affect how the laser interacts with the wood, which can cause uneven cuts and uneven engravings and Causes a lot of frustration because you have to do it again. And the noticeable grain in some softwoods can hide fine details in some engravings. Like if I tried to engrave here, you wouldn't be able to see it, as opposed to the lighter area here. The laser may burn deeper into soft parts of the grain, and you get an uneven appearance there too. And the softwoods often have knots and other imperfections that can disrupt your engraving and cause unpredictable results.
So strength and durability. Softwoods are generally less dense and more prone to breaking or splintering, especially when cut into thin pieces. They're a poor choice for projects that require structural strength. The softer surface of softwoods makes them more susceptible to denting and scratching. This can mess with the finished appearance of your project.
A few other things to consider. Some softwoods, particularly pine, can leak sap or resin, which can gum up your honeycomb and create a sticky mess.
Yeah.
It's like glue. It's really hard to get off. Softwoods are more prone to warping due to changes in humidity and moisture content.
Here are a few strategies for working with softwoods. Reduce the laser power and increase the cutting speed to minimize burning and scorching. Perform test cuts on scrap pieces to determine the optimal laser settings for your chosen softwood. Use the air assist feature on your laser cutter to blow away smoke and debris. This can help prevent scorching. Apply masking tape to the surface of the wood before engraving to protect it from scorching and to help achieve cleaner cuts. And finally, seal the finished product with a clear coat or other finish to protect it from moisture and damage.
How about engineered woods? Let's talk about the modern approach. A lot of people using those. The engineered woods offer consistent quality and a wide range of options for laser cutting and engraving. Like plywood. You have a sheet of plywood here? Right over here. Plywood's available in various wood veneers, and it provides a versatile solution for projects requiring strength and stability. Plywood has several layers here. It usually cuts pretty well with a laser, but its layered structure can sometimes lead to inconsistent engraving. It's great for boxes, organizers, and architectural models and signs. But it's important to choose a plywood that's specifically designed for laser cutting, as some types of plywood can contain glues or other materials that aren't laser friendly.
That's right. MDF stands for medium density fiberboard. It's a type of engineered wood that is made from wood dust, scraps, or fibers that are glued together under heat and pressure. This makes it a popular choice for laser cutting and engraving. There are also veneered MDF woods, which is MDF with super thin sheets of wood glued to the front and the back that make them look like legit wood. MDF typically produces very clean edges and dark brown engravings, though fine details may be lost due to its density. MDF is perfect for projects with a smooth painted finish, such as signs, plaques, and decorative items. MDF is a good choice for laser cutting because it is smooth and consistent, but it can produce a lot of dust, so it's important to use proper ventilation.
Plywood and MDF work really well, but they come with some drawbacks. And here's a breakdown of some of the cons to consider about these things. Due to the layered structure of plywood with different wood veneers glued together, engraving results can often be inconsistent.
That's right. The laser may interact differently with each layer, leading to variations in depth and color.
Plywood can sometimes have voids or gaps, like holes within the layers, especially in lower quality sheets. And these voids can cause the laser beam to diffract or scatter, resulting in uneven cuts or burns.
The glues used in plywood can sometimes contain chemicals that are not laser friendly. These chemicals can produce excessive fumes or even ignite during the laser cutting process.
Scary, it happens.
Right.
The edges of laser cut plywood can be prone to splintering, especially if the wood is not properly secured during cutting.
Plywood can have a tendency to curl, especially thinner sheets. This is because the veneers are often peeled from round logs and contain some of their original shape.
MDF is a dense material. This can make it challenging to achieve fine detail when engraving. The laser may not be able to vaporize the material cleanly, resulting in a loss of fine lines and intricate patterns.
That's right. MDF produces a significant amount of dust and fumes during laser cutting and engraving. These particles can be harmful to your health and can also clog the laser's exhaust system.
MDF often contains formaldehyde and other VOCs or volatile organic compounds that can be released into the air during laser cutting. These chemicals can irritate your eyes, nose, throat, and could pose long-term health risks. MDF is highly susceptible to moisture damage. If it's not sealed properly, it can absorb moisture from the air and swell or warp. And while MDF cuts cleanly with a laser, the cut edges can appear dull and unattractive. They often require additional finishing such as sanding or painting.
That's right. Here are a few strategies for working with plywood and MDF. Opt for higher grade plywood and MDF specifically designed for laser cutting. These materials are often made with laser-friendly glues and have fewer voids. Always use your laser cutter in a well-ventilated area to minimize exposure to dust and fumes. And consider an air purifier with a HEPA filter. Before starting a project, perform test cuts on scrap pieces of plywood or MDF to ensure you're happy with the results and to adjust your laser engraving and settings. Apply appropriate finishes to seal and protect the edges of your laser cut pieces, especially MDF.
True that. Let's move on to storing softwoods, hardwoods, plywood, and MDF. Wood is expensive, as we found out. Climate control for wood storage is a key factor in preserving quality, especially for the long term. So here's a breakdown of climate considerations for different wood types. Now, we want to talk about temperature. You need a consistent temperature somewhere between 60 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 15 to 21 Celsius, and you need to avoid rapid fluctuations. Humidity should be about 40 to 60%, somewhere in there. And that prevents both drying out or excess moisture, both which are bad. And good airflow helps prevent stagnant moisture and deters mold and mildew.
And there are other things to consider. Softwoods are more susceptible to moisture absorption and warping. Climate control is highly recommended, especially for finished pieces or valuable lumber. If climate control isn't possible, prioritize excellent ventilation and protection from the elements.
Hardwoods are a little more stable than softwoods, but still benefit from climate-controlled conditions. Now, again, acclimation crucial before use. Bring the wood to the environment it's going to be used in several days prior to cutting or whatever you're going to work with it. And for valuable hardwoods, climate control, you want to definitely do that because it helps preserve the color and it'll prevent cracking.
That's right. Plywood can warp or delaminate where the layers separate with improper storage. Store flat, supported across the entire surface to prevent sagging. Humidity control is vital as uneven moisture can cause warping.
We've seen that.
Yes, we have.
MDF, the medium density fiberboard, is very susceptible to moisture damage, even more so than solid woods, which I was surprised to find. It can swell, sag, or crumble with high humidity. It falls apart. Climate control is super important for that, especially for long-term storage. If you're cutting it, it's a great idea to seal the edges, and this is where the moisture enters most easily.
That's right. Beyond temperature and humidity, avoid direct sunlight. It can cause fading and uneven drying. Store your lumber flat with room airflow or large pieces vertically, but only if space is limited, and ensure good support. A clean, dry environment deters pests. Inspect wood periodically and treat your space accordingly.
So people ask, why does climate control matter? Well, it prevents warping and cracking because wood moves with moisture changes. Consistent conditions mitigate this. It maintains integrity and keeps wood strong, and it prevents issues like delamination in plywood. And it also preserves the value, especially for high quality hardwoods or veneers. The climate control will protect your investment.
That's right. It improves workability. Wood at the correct moisture content is easier to cut, join, and finish. By considering these factors, you can ensure your wood stays in top condition, ready for your next project.
So always mind the kerf. What's a kerf? Kerf refers to the width of material that is removed or vaporized during the cutting process. So the laser beam kind of cuts through when it cuts and it vaporizes a small portion of the material. So while kerf may seem like a minor detail, it can affect the overall dimensions and fit of some more intricate designs. So think things like puzzle pieces. You do want a small kerf in puzzle pieces, but you'll never be able to get it together or apart. And when you cut intricate patterns in different woods that you intend to assemble for a final project later, you need to make sure that they all fit together properly. So designs with cutouts or features smaller than the kerf width could be lost. So when you go in really, really tiny, those intricate designs, if you go beyond the kerf, you could end up losing a piece of your design and wonder, hey, what happened there? Well, it's the kerf. Factors that affect kerf width are the amount of power a laser has, how the laser beam is focused, the size of the laser beam used to cut, how fast the laser is moving, the material being cut and its properties, I guess how thick the material is, and ultimately the shape of the cut, I guess, all things that affect the kerf.
That's right. To measure your kerf, create a small 10 millimeter square in your software, then cut it in the optimal speed and power. When the cut is done, carefully measure the square with a digital caliper. Now subtract the measurement from the 10 millimeters, and that is your kerf.
It's going to be super small and almost insignificant, but sometimes it does matter.
So how do you account for kerf? Many laser cutting systems have software that can automatically adjust the cutting path to compensate for kerf. Designers can incorporate kerf allowance into their designs by slightly modifying dimensions. Performing test cuts on the specific material and with the desired laser settings can help determine the actual kerf width and fine-tune the cutting process.
So what about laser length? You hear about these laser length considerations. You have a 2-inch or a 4-inch. So if your laser engraver has that option, you should consider changing the focal length of your laser cutting lens in situations like this. When you're cutting materials of different thicknesses. So for thicker materials, you generally want a longer focal length lens. A longer focal length will provide a greater depth of focus, meaning the laser beam remains consistently focused over a larger distance. And this allows for better penetration and cleaner cuts through thicker materials when you get into that 1/2-inch, 3/4 stuff. For thinner materials like this, a shorter focal length lens is usually better. This provides a smaller laser spot size with high energy density, resulting in faster and cleaner cuts.
And when switching between cutting and engraving, shorter focal lengths are generally better for engraved because they produce a smaller spot size, resulting in finer detail and higher resolution.
So here's a quick guide to help you choose the right focal length. 2-inch lens, great for intricate engraving, cutting thin materials, I guess up to about a 1/4 inch or 3 millimeters. 2.5-inch lens, good all-purpose lens that balances engraving detail and cutting capability up to about a 1/2 inch. The 4-inch lens, the big daddy, best for cutting thicker materials which are over a 1/2 inch thick.
Right. Remember to consult your laser cutter's FAQ for recommendations on appropriate focal lengths for different materials and applications. And perform test cuts on scrap material to fine-tune the focal length and other laser settings for optimal results. Can't stress that one enough. And always keep your lens clean to ensure consistent performance.
When choosing or selecting the wood for your laser project, you need to consider the following factors. Wood expands and contracts with changes in humidity, so this can change and affect the fit of intricate laser cut pieces. You need to keep that in mind. So always wear appropriate safety gear, including eye protection and a respirator when laser cutting and engraving wood. Ensure good ventilation to remove fumes, or use a fume extractor like we do. Enhance and protect your project with oil, stains, or paint to protect it. Test everything with small pieces of wood to determine the optimal laser settings for desired results.
Right. And by understanding the characteristics of different wood types, you can make informed decisions to achieve stunning results with your laser cutting and engraving projects. Wow, that was a lot of information to throw at you. So if you have any questions, let us know in the comments. And if you have anything to add, leave that in the comments as well.
Sure. No one knows everything, right?
That's right.
Felicia and I are working on a comprehensive guide with all this information and more. If you'd like a copy or access to it, just click the link in the description of this video.
And thanks for watching, and have fun laser cutting and engraving.